Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and with me is agricultural meteorologist Greg Soulje. Welcome, Greg. Happy Friday to you.
And a happy Friday to you as well, as Sarah, on the last of the string of very delightful, uncharacteristically mild autumn, fall, early November days, as we have been talking about. Once in a while, the other boot and hoof will drop. It'll do that for the next few days, but not a long-lasting pattern shift by any means.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've been enjoying this. I will admit
Yes.
that.
It
So
will be a little more windblown going forward, but that's what you need to do this time of the year to go from the cold that we'll have into a milder go of it. And it's one of those soap box things where people talk about it's going to turn warmer. We'll be in the 30s and 40s, but it's a 40-mile-an-hour wind out there. Doesn't feel much warmer. But anyway,
right.
we'll discern that down the line here in the days and weeks to come.
All right. Well, your slides are up. Tell us what's ahead.
Okay, happy Friday on the 7th of November. Gee whiz, baseball season over. Height of the football season on the pro side. Colleges are winding down as well. And the weather maps and charts for Friday afternoon have a couple of cold fronts on them. The first one relatively benign. We got a whole whopping 1,307 inch of rain in some of the dry, drought-ridden areas. And I'm hearing about it. I'm hearing about guys who are done with harvest and fall cleanup, even anhydrous application in these mild days out of East Central Illinois. Some of our radio stations down there, we want rain at no matter now what cost to kind of get us where we need to be going into springtime, not dealing with spring rains, plus snow melt, compaction, etc., so forth and so on. In any event, we'll see what transpires here in the second half of the month of November. That's why you got to check us out on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. Some semblance of a little pattern shift for the second half of the month of November for those clamoring for more liquid form moisture, of which came down over East Central Illinois earlier on this morning, and it'll make its way through Indiana, Ohio, into the lower lakes region. The Northeast did get a wind-blown rain system earlier in the week, and boy, it is a tough go of it. Lots of drought through the Northeast into New England. We'll take a look at that in a second. That secondary cold front over the upper Midwest back across the Dakotas, that is the southern periphery of some of this early season Arctic air, which is expected to briefly, and I want to emphasize briefly, come southward. You'll feel it. You'll notice it. A reminder what comes down the line here in the month of early to mid December. But in any event, drop in temperatures for the northern plains, and you can see the next weather system that'll impact the plains and Corn Belt locales out through the areas of Big Sky Country, the northern and central Rockies, and a little bit of wet snow and rain. We had that up north of Lake Superior and through the southern Canadian Prairie yesterday. There is some snow on the ground, anywhere between about 2 and 5 inches or so, running from about Edmonton to Winnipeg to just north of Lake Superior. Usually when those cold air sources are really dominant for the wintertime, we have a bunch of snow already on the ground. So that's the saving grace on this shot of cold air over the back end of the weekend, early next week. By tomorrow morning, some of that white stuff, a little rain, some sloppy grounds. It's moisture at least. But you'll feel it. Livestock operators, bin and bine operators. Hopefully, you'll have those shelter areas ready to go. A little extra feed requirement. Not a winter storm the whole week long. And I don't know why I wasted energy just kind of correcting people's forecast of slapping what they call the GFS model out there, which until at least as late as this morning was kicking 7 inches of snow at Rockford, Illinois, and southern Wisconsin. Not going to happen. Just not going to happen. Bad forecast. In any event, we do have a little snow rain mix on the warm grounds of the northwestern Corn Belt tomorrow morning. By evening time, out west of Rockford towards Galena, Dubuque, and eastern Iowa, there'll be a rain-snow mix. It's a two-pronged weather system. The first one will outrace the cold air source, and second one, not that there won't be a little snow in the air and maybe on the truck top or perhaps a little slush and mush at some point over the weekend, early next week. Lake effect moisture belts of Indiana and Michigan and east from there will get something, and drought relief, and probably 1.5 inches of something melted down over there. Any accumulating snows probably through the northernmost Great Lakes areas, and even there on colder grounds. But there should be anywhere between 1/4 and 3/4 of an inch of rain through Illinois, northern Indiana, and through Ohio. And the wraparound effect of that system by Sunday morning has about a 30 to 35 mile an hour north wind and a slightly northeast wind for folks who like Chicago Bears football. Soldier Field with the Giants, that'll be a messy affair of wet snow, rain, temps in the 30s. Snowflakes as far south as about a Champaign Indianapolis line, wet snowflakes, that's it. And again, maybe a little slush on the car top. If you wanted some wet accumulation, strictly colder services right at the Great Lakes shoreline through northwest Indiana and western Michigan. But welcome rain for the northeast of New England. You'll see why in just a minute. There is the quarter to half inch worth of moisture, one form or another. And if it does snow, grounds are incredibly warm. One thing is the Great Lakes water temperatures are 6 degrees on average above average right now. And so you bring this early winter air over it, and you get a pretty good lake setup when that does materialize under the right circumstances, and it will going forward. And that's the next 48 hours worth of moisture again for the western and central Corn Belt locales, Great Lakes areas. Not much going in the southwest. We do have another one of these atmospheric river setups getting going next week in the Pacific Northwest and a southward jog into California. And we need it. There's the western states, and with recent moisture, we've had some improvement through Oregon, northern and central California, the Sierra ranges. Still work to do in the southwest, up through Big Sky Country, east of the Divide. We've had some improvement, but the real tough corridor, two areas. Northern Florida, Cotton Belt areas of Georgia and Mississippi, and of course out of East Central Illinois, Central and Northeast Indiana, Northwest Ohio. And look at the Northeast New England, Mount Washington, down Eastern Maine, southward from there, extreme drought conditions. So we can get a couple of more weather systems to come on through there. We'll make some significant improvement on the ongoing dryness and drought there. There's the worst of it in Champaign County, around Logansport, Ball State, Maumee Valley, Northwest Ohio, still in a world of hurt out there. And harvest is from what we're hearing, with the exception of the southern rust thing that keeps coming up in discussion, which has been knocking yields down. I think it's on the corn side of things. Everyone else is pretty much wrapped up, just waiting for moisture to get going around here going forward in the next few weeks. There's a snow cover map. Time to bust that thing out and take a look at it. Up towards the Sioux, patches of upstate New York, the northeast of New England, and most of the significant snow, close to 5-6 inches around the Lake Winnipeg area and westward from there. And of course, topping the mountain peaks of the Rockies, northern Rockies, and Cascades. The real cold air concern, and again, we're out of season around here, but maybe from a livestock standpoint, some extra shelter and feed requirements as you get into the Ohio Valley and down all the way down to Cotton Belt country, the Gulf Coast, probably some low to mid 30s expected by early next week, where skies clear and winds drop back. And this is just a short, abbreviated 24 to 30 hour crack at cold. Just a little deviation in the longer range stuff. We've had a couple of those already this year. If this were to occur later in the winter season, when we've got snow on the ground, these cold air outbreaks are slow to erode. They last for multi-days, multi-weeks. But these ones that don't have any snow cover, there's not much to speak of other than what we just talked about in southern Canada. The big snow pack is in the birthplace territory of these cold air intrusions in Siberia and the northeastern part of Russia. A lot of snow on the ground there for the time of year for those folks. But for now, we're in good shape. And just a quick reminder that what early to mid-December feels like when we get to early to mid-December. Tropics, nothing going on. Nothing there the next 48 hours, next 7 days as well. The next 7 days from a moisture standpoint are really focused on this weekend weather system coming across the Corn Belt areas. And again, downwind, the south end of Lake Michigan, south into southwest lower Michigan, into the lower lakes region. Some spots will have 3/4 to a buck and a half worth of something, rain, melted snow. And again, if it snows and visibilities will probably come on down, it's short-lived. The grounds are just incredibly warm. It'd be colder objects, fence posts, metal roofs, that type of thing that will get something if it happens at all. But again, something on the wiper blade as far south as northern and central Illinois, northern Indiana over the weekend, early next week. There's that big, cold upper air trough, the U-shaped configuration, and that's a sharp one. So a sharp movement of wind and weather into it, and a quick exit out of it between Monday and Tuesday as jet stream winds flatten out. It becomes more zonal west to east. You can see a little troughiness, and there'll be another weak system that drops into the northeast of New England. Warm up for the plains, and not just a little bit of warm up, a significant one, but big asterisk on that. It's going to come with about a 30 to 40 mile an hour south wind. So the initial stages of the warm up won't be real warm. You do see a significant shift in the jet stream Monday, Tuesday from the Pacific Northwest down into California. And that will ultimately move into the southwestern states. And it's a little more trip off, a little more indicator of the transitioning beginning finally into a La Nina setup in that particular part of the country. Again, and not ping pong balls that we chase around. It takes weeks, if not 2 or 3 months to get into one phase or another. weather. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just that flow out of Canada goes to the Gulf Coast. That's a 30-mile-an-hour wind into Monday and Tuesday, with temperatures the upper teens and lower 20s as far south as I-70, mid to upper 20s all the way into the Tennessee Valley, low to mid 30s to the Gulf Coast. But again, some wind involved as well with that. So we'll be calculating wind chills, and then it comes right back at us at the other direction between Tuesday and Wednesday. And then again, towards late next week, not quite as strong, but a lot of wind in this transition back and forth. So if you hear the sunny, windy, and warmer, take into account the wind aspect as we go from the teens to the 40s and 50s in the afternoon. Speaking of which, there are high temperatures for the day today, still crowding 60 in northern Illinois. You can see that cold air beginning to tool through the northern plains. And there is the outlook on temperatures for Monday. Daytime readings in the upper 20s and 30s, some upper 30s and 40s in the western Corn Belt, then running from about North Platte, Grand Island westward, 50s and 60s. Remember, when those winds even up aloft, they come on down off the Rockies. It does compress the atmosphere, it does warm the atmosphere, moderate the atmosphere, and hence you get that kind of turnaround in temperature readings into Big Sky Country and the western high plains areas. Meanwhile, nighttime lows not vary here over the next several days. We'll be looking at, these are max temps, by the way. One more look at max temps with 40s and 50s in the eastern Corn Belt, 50s and 60s in the western Corn Belt. So again, the cold will be short-lived. It's probably not the greatest, tending to deal with livestock issues with temperature and humidity, and then bin and barn storage issues with temperature and humidity when you get such these wide-ranging temperatures across the area. Anyway, lows pretty mild for tonight in through tomorrow morning. There is readings that drop into the low to mid 30s to the western Gulf Coast area by Monday. Upper teens and lower 20s all the way into the central Corn Belt locales. Will be a little bit of crunch under foot and hoof, I'm sure. And just as quickly by mid next week, really tough to see anything below freezing except in the far eastern parts of the Corn Belt. Maybe some patchy frost and freeze north of Orlando into the Florida Panhandle, which is very much premature for the time of year, even for those folks. But again, just an example of how quick and how fast the cold air moves on in and moves right back out in the next 6 to 10 days. Strong zonal, slightly southward shifted zonal flow in the jet stream configuration. No real substantial cold coming across out of the northern Pacific, Gulf of Alaska area. So good news there. And the next 2 weeks, pretty much the same thing. A little troughiness in the west, a little ridging in the southeast. A very easy weather pattern on man or beast. Of course, we'll take this stretch further into the first week of December on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. And if you are looking for some moisture, we think we've got a good pacing of that beginning to go on. You won't see this on the government outlook, although I agree with these temperatures that we're over the next, really the second half of November, phenomenally mild over the middle part of the country, high and dry as well, except for the western states. We agree with that. And there may be little pieces of energy that break out from these western trough weather systems. They dash across the country. You come up with a tenth to quarter, maybe a half inch of moisture, probably rain on any given week heading through the second half of November. And we'll have the outlook that takes us in through the beginning part of December on the big TV show as well. And our live stream is less than a week away on the 12th. I believe that is next Wednesday, is it not, Sarah?
So it is next Wednesday.
We can take better be cracking on the winter outlook. Although I don't foresee any big substantial changes. We'll put a little bit more detail going forward into January, February, and March. Then probably in December, we'll take a little sneak peek of how the spring may begin to play out from that vantage point. But that's pretty much it from the weather office here on a Hip Hip Hooray Finally Friday.
Very good. Yeah, I look forward to getting a little longer term look next week in terms of what's going to happen this winter. Appreciate that. And
yeah,
sounds like we've got a little more, kind of some warm still left in the area, which is great. And some precipitation, which is very much needed and wanted.
If we can get that going and keep temperatures at bay and not generate a lot of stress in these feedlot areas and just bring it in little bits and pieces, which is the way we're going to have to approach it, all the while better. Don't think we'll be getting into, when we get into the winter storm season, be at a point where soil moisture is completely recharged, but at least we will have started the process of getting something going. And at least we had an early and often start and wrap to the harvest season. At least that's by our estimates from what we've heard in radio land across the country. Very good. All right. Well, we'll be catching up with you next week, Greg. Thank you so much. And thank you to our audience for tuning in.